Ladies and gentlemen, crime doesn't magically drop because politicians light candles and start singing Imagine by John Lennon, nor their stupid songs in the street like No Trump, no KK, no fascist USA. Crimes drop when leadership enforces the law, backs the police, and doesn't treat criminals like saints that are just misunderstood and who need another government program. President Trump understood that, the left hated him for it, and you and I get to live in the consequences of their lunacy. And welcome to the Chicago Mayor Insanity, where the Windy City's leadership produces more hot air than a deep dish oven. Today, we deal with this ignorant statement. Welcome back to the Revealed Report. What's that? Breaking news? Oh, President Trump's still alive? That is wonderful to hear. I mean, many on the left and many people out there lost their ever-loving mind by thinking that President Trump is dead. Why? Because he wasn't in front of the cameras for a week. He was taking a break and playing golf. But yet, President Lion Joe Biden would go missing for over a month, and nobody questioned that. And as a matter of fact, CNN and PMSNBC would be out there saying, no, President Joe Biden, he's doing great. As a matter of fact, he's running marathons, doing backflips and bench pressing 500 pounds. Nothing to see here and nothing to worry about. And on top of that, when the AI footage came out of, President Trump throwing something out of the White House, and then they questioned that, oh, no, don't worry. Nothing to see here. President Trump is only throwing out bodies, and it's only the people that are not white. They lost their ever-loving mind. These people are absolutely insane. And their policies of trying to crack down on crime, or better yet, not crack down on crime, is even more insane. So let's look at the Chicago mayor and his insanity. But first, before we do that, let's talk about Trump's crackdown on crime. Let's talk about the facts for a moment. Let's talk about Operation Legend in 2020, where Trump deployed over 1,000 federal agents into major cities within months. Over 6,000 arrests were made, 466 were charged with homicide, and there were thousands of illegal guns seized. Project Safe Neighborhoods revamped under Trump, which increased prosecutions of violent offenders and felons with firearms. The DOJ under Trump cracked down on violent crime, prosecuting many, which reached the highest levels in decades. So what's the key takeaway here? Trump didn't just talk tough. He unleashed the federal government like a hammer on violent crime, and criminals felt it. But let's look at the less resistance and craziness. In 2020, the defund the police movement, championed by progressive Democrats in Congress and city councils across America, Minneapolis, Seattle, Portland, and New York, and the list goes on. They were soft on crime. The DAs were extremely soft on crime, funded and supported by the left, rolling out no cash bail, early releases, and reduced sentencing, fueling repeat offenders. Biden's DOJ appointees refocused resources on equity, innovations, while violent offenders walk free. The left treats crime like sociology term papers. If we just write enough excuses in the margins, the shootings will stop. Spoiler alert, they didn't. Now let's look at the contrast of the matter. Trump believes in law and order, backing police, and increasing prosecution, as well as protecting communities. The left, defund, excuse, and release. Demonize police, empower criminals, blame America itself. Crime rates soared after 2020 in virtually every Democratic-run city: New York, Chicago, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, St. Louis, Baltimore, and more. People didn't need a think tank white paper to feel it. They heard it every night outside of their windows. When Trump cracked down, criminals ran scared. When Democrats cracked down, it was on the police. Which one do you think made America safer? You see, the radical left has no problem heating up things in the street. They don't have a problem with lawlessness. It helps their agenda. Instead, what they do is they come out and they demonize anybody who wants to crack down on crime and call them Nazi, racist, fascist. Don't you know that you're breaking the Constitution? Because the Constitution totally defended criminals infringing upon the rights of another. Oh yeah, I read that in the Bill of Rights. And yet at the same time, they want to take law-abiding citizens' guns away. They want to break your Second Amendment right while trying to claim that they're the ones protecting the Constitution because they're fighting the evil tyrant Donald Trump. Even though Donald Trump is trying to keep our city streets safe, he wants daddies to be able to know their kids can walk down the street safely. He wants to know that husbands know that their wives can walk down the street and the husband doesn't have to worry all day. And yet they want to demonize him for that. You see, the radical left, they don't have any common sense anymore, because all they do is they take the 20% against the 80% issue, meaning that 80% of the general public wants safer streets, but they take the 20% side because they are anti-Donald Trump. Nothing Trump does is right. They can justify themselves and demonize everything Trump does. They can never, in a spirit of humility, say he's right about anything. And the cost of it is you and I. We pay the price of that. We're the ones that have unsafe streets and cities because of their radical ideas, because at the end of the day, all they want to do is crush Trump, and yet they're losing because most people want their cities safe. They're more worried about knowing that there's not going to be a bullet coming through their window that could kill them or their kids. They want to know that their daughter can walk down the street without being raped. They want to know that their boys can walk down the street without somebody coming and committing molestation on them. They want safe streets. They want to be able to go to Walmart at night and not worry about somebody in the parking lot stabbing them and taking all their stuff. And yet they call Trump a racist, even though he's cracking down on crime where there is a high amount of black on black crime. He's not just keeping white streets safe. He's keeping black streets safe, Hispanic streets safe. He's keeping Americans safe from illegal activity, gang activity, violent activity, and yet the radical left wants to fight against him rather than fight against the criminals. We are living in an age where we now promote criminality at the expense of law-abiding citizens because it fuels their agenda. And as a matter of fact, we even see where the BBC put out a report, U.S. strike on Venezuelan drug boat. What do we know, and was it legal? A strike carried out by U.S. forces on a boat in the Caribbean Sea, which the White House says killed 11 drug traffickers, may have violated international human rights and maritime law, legal experts have told BBC Verify. President Donald Trump announced on Tuesday that U.S. forces destroyed a vessel which he said had departed from Venezuela. He said the boat was operated by Tren de Guagua cartel and was carrying drugs bound for the U.S. U.S. defense officials have so far declined to offer details on the strike. Footage of Trump shared on Truth Social, including what legal authority they relied upon to justify it. BBC Verify reached out to a range of experts in international maritime law, with several saying that U.S. may have acted illegally in attacking the vessel. The U.S. is not a signatory to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, but the U.S. military's legal advisors have previously said that the U.S. should act in manner consistent with its provisions. Under the convention, countries agree not to interfere with vessels operating in international waters. There are limited exceptions to this, which allow a state to seize a ship, such as a hot pursuit, where a vessel is chased from a country's waters into high seas. Force can be used to stop a boat, but generally, this should be non-lethal measures, Professor Luke Moffat of Queen's University Belfast said. But he added that the use of aggressive tactics must be reasonable and necessary in self-defense where there is immediate threat of serious injury or loss of life to enforcement officials. Noting that the U.S. moves were likely unlawful under the law of the sea. So we need to ask the question, have we become an over-diplomatic society? I believe in diplomacy. I believe that I'm thankful that we got rid of slavery. I'm thankful we got rid of segregation. But my question is, have we become so over-diplomatic that we think to fix all the problems, we got to write more legislation, which means we're cracking down more on the law officers rather than the criminals. We're cracking down more on government officials that want to crack down on crime than we are the actual criminals themselves. Do we enforce more laws that actually protect more people behind the bars than the guards that are trying to keep the prisons safe? You see, because the radical left thinks to fix all the problems, just write out more legislation. And to go even further than that, defund the police and just let's get more government programs. Let's tax the people and redistribute the wealth, put more government programs out there, and we'll fix all the problems, because all the criminals need is more understanding. Don't you know, they really had an unfair life. I mean, things just didn't go their way. They just didn't have a good upbringing. And so we need to really be more understanding to them. And so we go soft on crime, let them go back out there, rape more people, murder more people, and hurt more people. Hey, I believe in trying to reach people before they go that far. But when people break the law, there must be punishment, not only for their sake and the victim's sake, but also to send the signal, you don't get away with that here. Now, I'll tell President Trump and his administration that if they're going to make these attacks on these cartel drug people that are trying to smuggle in drugs into our nation, I'm for that, but just try to do it as precautiously as possible so that you don't make the mistake that lying Joe Biden did by killing a family in the Middle East that was perfectly innocent. I mean, it was a tragic, terrible, horrible mistake to be made. So, and I don't expect perfection, but I definitely would say let's do this as cautiously and careful as we can. But at the same time, we need to crack down on crime. We need to quit writing legislation that promotes criminal activity at the expense of law-abiding citizens. Our nation should not have fentanyl pouring over the border, and we sit around questioning whether or not it's a fascist thing to try to close up the border. It's a fascist thing to try to crack down on crime because you're a Nazi if you want to keep our city streets safe. I mean, think about how much logic and sense that makes. And look at the mayor of New York, or mayor of Chicago, Brandon Johnson, September 1st, 2025. Watch this lunacy. Are you prepared to defend this land? This land was built by slaves, a land that was built by indigenous people, a land that is built by workers. Are you prepared to defend this land? What is he saying? Just allow there to be more crime in a city, allow there to be more violent attacks, allow there to be more rape, allow there to be more burglaries, because all he wants to do is defend the land against that evil Donald Trump that's trying to come in and do what they failed to do. They failed to keep their city safe. And so Donald Trump is trying to keep the city safe. And yet he says, we got to defend this land. And what irony when he says it was built by slaves and built by indigenous people. You see, these people want to rewrite history and take history by sound bites to try to make you believe a lie that our founders were nothing but a bunch of racist people, and they were just trying to hold down everybody that wasn't white. Not understanding that the only reason that the slaves were set free is because white men took a bullet by other white men, sometimes their own family members, to set black people free. And they were doing it because they believed in the founding document that all men were created equal. That was the mission statement, and that's what they were working towards. As a matter of fact, Ben Franklin and Thomas Jefferson rewrote property for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness so that the southern colonies that were wanting to use that to justify slavery couldn't use that to justify slavery. You see, this was a culminating battle until it escalated into the freeing of the slaves. And that's because of the founding documents. They also won't tell you that the first chattel slave owner was a black man owning another black man, Anthony Johnson. They won't talk about that because it goes against their entire narrative. And he wants to talk about it being built on indigenous people. But yet they won't talk about the fact that after the Emancipation Proclamation, the white American leaders had to go to the Native Americans, the indigenous people, and negotiate with them so that they would free their black slaves. And I'm not trying to put down the indigenous Native Americans. I have that blood in me and truly do not like Pocahontas out there. I'm not trying to put them down. I'm just trying to show that all people were guilty of these things in the past. All nations have guilt on their record. The reason why they're not trying to tear down other countries because of their past is because they hate America, they hate capitalism, and they hate the fact that we were built on biblical Christian principles. They hate that. They want humanism. They want Marxism. And the only way they can have that is they have to uproot the system. The only way they can fundamentally transform America is by color revolutions, where you allow things to be heated up in the streets while you get some lying politician to come in, like all the communist, Marxist, socialist leaders do, come in promising that they're for the people. We're for your freedoms. We're for your rights. And we're going to fight for you. And we're going going to bring stability. And they sell that lie and do a top-down, bottom-up approach to flip the whole thing inside out. This is why they don't crack down on crime, because they believe they have to uproot the system. And the only way they're going to do that is it takes some level of force. They heat things up so they can lay down the hammer. They're like the Fabians of old. Heat things up, pray harder, and hit it more stouter, and reshape the world to your own desire. You see, they think if they heat things up and if they lie enough, they can begin to shape the world into their order, what they desire and what they want. They can't fight on policy. They don't fight on policy. They don't argue their ideas because most Americans want their cities safe. So they don't come out and say, no, we're for lawlessness. No, we don't. No, they don't do that because they can't argue their policies because their policies fail. They're losing policies. So they try to lie to you. They're deceptive. They have no soul. And the ones who lie enough, they believe their own lie. It's kind of scary. It's kind of like 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. They believe a lie to be damned because they have not a love for the truth. But the sad thing is their own lie became their own truth. And they said it so much and lived in it so much, they actually started to adopt it as a reality to the point that they actually think the world's going to die tomorrow because of climate change. I mean, how dare you, Greta Thunberg? How dare you drive your SUVs? How dare you stand against criminals in the street? Oh, we got to defend the Constitution because the Constitution defended criminals, right? At the expense of taking law-abiding gun owners' guns away, right? That makes sense. As a matter of fact, the forefounders didn't believe in a big government. They believed in a limited government because they believed that government in itself is evil and becomes tyrannical by nature. So they believed in a limited government for the sole purpose that we do not infringe upon the rights of another. The Constitution was to protect you so that you can live safely in your home, that you can have peace and you can have stability. It doesn't defend the criminals that are infringing upon the rights of law-abiding citizens. It protects law-abiding citizens. It protects them so that they can own a weapon to protect their home, domestically and foreign, and have freedom of speech, have freedom of the press, that they could have fair trials, which we don't have today because the two-tier justice system under George Soros' money and backed by the radical left has now made it to where if you believe in radical leftist ideas, you know, we're just going to try to be more understanding. Those hard people on the right, they just don't understand you. They don't understand how hard your life is. So we're going to decrease your sentence and we're going to get you out of there quicker so you can do it again. And yet you have Calamity Kamala Harris, the vice president of lying Joe Biden, bailing out the Summer of Love peaceful protesters as they were burning down cities and looting stores and causing harm and infringing upon the rights of their neighbor. While they were throwing the book at anybody, it was down at the Capitol on January 6th. What about the horn hat guy, which I don't believe in all his ideas, but he didn't violently attack anybody. He was let in pretty easy. And they threw the book at him, 30 days in the hole for you, unless you're out there singing what we want you to sing in the streets. You see, there's a two-tier justice system. They want to protect the criminals at the expense of law-abiding citizens. They want to crack down on Trump rather than crack down on crime. We even now have a world that makes international crime or international laws to make it easier for criminals to get away with being criminals rather than cracking down on crime. I think we should throw out the whole premise of all these modern ideas. I believe in diplomacy. I believe in being diplomatic. But we have become so overly diplomatic that you can't even look at somebody without them getting offended. You can't even talk, well, they didn't have a right tone. We have become so easily offended, and we have propagated lies thinking that those things are good. And so now criminals, they just need more understanding, not the book thrown at them. Look, I'm for trying to reach everybody before they become lawbreakers. But the moment they become criminals, there is justice that needs to be served. I'm not saying there's not mercy. I'm not saying there's not grace. But justice must be served, not only for the victim's sake, but to show all the other criminals, don't dare try it. You know what that attack on that ship said? Hey, if you're in the cartel drug gang and you're trying to smuggle drugs over here, you better think twice because you don't know when you're at risk. Oh, how dare he? How dare he keep us safe? We need to protect the rights of these drug cartels. We need to protect their rights, even though they're killing many people. But we got to protect their rights. Oh, MS-13. I mean, we got to protect their rights, don't you know? We got to protect the rights of those that are pushing drugs and violent criminal activity, because, you know, here in America, we protect everybody's rights except for those on the right. No, we don't want to protect their rights. It's hypocrisy. It's an upside down, inside out system where they call good evil and evil good, put light for darkness and darkness for light. And how does the radical left do it? Exactly like Revelation 13 says the beast would. False diversity and out to save the people. Just elect them. Just give them more power. They'll protect you. They'll keep you safe while they get rid of your police officers, and they tax you to death. They redistribute your wealth, and they give you more social programs at the expense of our future. And yet they do all these things, but they're protecting you. They're out for your good. No, they're not. They're out for your slavery. They want to keep themselves in power. Either they lied to themselves enough that they believe it, or they are ones that are willing to sell out their principles and their soul for political power and political gain. At least President Trump, you may not like him, but he tells you exactly what he wants to do. He's not like Gavin Newsom's out there that'll lie week after week. J.B. Pritzker lie week after week after week so they can keep their power and their control. Our cities need to be safe. Our families need to be safe. Thank God for a president that actually is trying to crack down on crime. The radical left promotes it while the right is trying to crack down on it. And now the radical left says, no, we're trying to defend the Constitution. We need to reject the premise of all their lies, and we need to support the president as he's trying to keep our cities safe. Chicago, I'm sorry that your mayor will sell you out. You're in my prayers. God bless you, Chicago, and God bless you, America.